what does a trial lawyer do to stay busy during the COVID-19 pandemic? Luckily for me, I've always worn two hats. One is obviously the criminal defense, which is almost exclusively DUI defense in Mass, New Hampshire, and Maine. But also, I've maintained a very active and successful personal injury practice for over 25 years. And I've been busy with both during the pandemic. The courts in Massachusetts are essentially closed down to in-person hearings. I've got several pending jury trials, and I don't think those are going to get heard probably until at least September, October. I've got a handful of jury trials scheduled in Maine, and again, I don't know how my Mass residents charged with OUI in Maine are going to even get through the 14-day quarantine to appear for a trial, but I expect those also to be continued out until September, October. New Hampshire, most of my DUI cases are bench trials, and those are probably going to come back online maybe July or August. But the DMV in New Hampshire is still open. The Registry of Motor Vehicles in Massachusetts has been very helpful. We've been able to resolve a lot of driver's license issues for folks in Massachusetts because hearings officers are working remotely and have become very available and cooperative and helpful in Massachusetts. In New Hampshire, we've been able to resolve at least a dozen cases, DUI cases, where we've been able to reach an agreement for a lesser offense or reckless driving or negligent driving, and the courts have been very accommodating to schedule things for telephonic pleas to keep the cases moving and to keep the docket from getting too overcrowded when things do open up. I can give you an example of where those two practices intersect. Most recently, the last three settlements on the personal injury side of things in the last several weeks have all been six-figure cases. One was a multiple six-figure case. The limitations only being that was the maximum amount of insurance available. One was a wrongful death. One was a pedestrian and that was in New Hampshire. The pedestrian case struck by a motor vehicle was in Massachusetts. And then I had a very interesting case in New Hampshire where my client was driving within his lane and was literally struck head-on by a vehicle traveling in the opposite direction who came into his lane. Unfortunately, my client's blood alcohol was above the legal limit, but the blood was seized by the police because they had not yet determined or hadn't determined who was the cause, but it was quite clear from the facts and the evidence that he was not the cause of the accident, and law enforcement was not allowed to seize his blood under those circumstances. And initially, he was facing both an administrative suspension at the DMV for a period of 2 years, and he was looking at a potential DWI charge as well. But because of the seizure of the blood that we were positioned to argue was illegal, the administrative suspension went away, and then ultimately the criminal investigation ended without him being charged. Now, he suffered a serious injury as a result of that collision, which was not his fault. There was evidence that he was over the legal limit, but he wasn't the causal factor of the crash. And because we were able to eliminate that criminal burden hanging over his head and that administrative suspension, ultimately we were able to resolve the injury claim for the maximum policy limits of $100,000. And that's just a prime example of where the knowledge of the DUI laws that apply to any particular crash helped us favorably resolve the civil personal injury claim as well. So if you're facing a DUI charge in Mass, New Hampshire, or Maine, it's critically important to, again, hire a lawyer, a trial lawyer, as soon as possible, because there are things in play like administrative suspensions and reciprocity between the states, and you shouldn't let those things go. I know the restaurants, the bars, the golf courses, hopefully the social events will pick back up. Be careful out there and be safe.